Hello and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. I want to welcome you back to another Safeopedia webinar. My name is Samantha from Safeopedia, and here it is our mission to support you, our EHS professionals, operational folks, and any safety-minded individuals with free safety information, tools, and education. I want to give you a huge shout out for being here today and for doing a great work on keeping our workplaces safe on a daily basis. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out a link to the recording to everyone in a few days. Today, we are proud to present From Onboard to Competent, Managing Compliance as an Integrated Process. The Safeopedia webinar has been made possible today by Cosmos Forums. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you today's presenter, Jacqueline Day. Today, Jacqueline will show how HSE teams can manage workforce compliance end-to-end from onboarding to ongoing competency using a single connected system. I'm very excited to have you all sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation. With that, Jacqueline, let's jump into it.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Jacqueline Day, as Samantha said, and I'm an account manager with Cosmos Forums. I am joined today by our CEO, David Fettig, who will be on hand to help address your questions at the end of the session. Again, thanks very much, Samantha, for hosting us today. Here's what we'll cover. We'll begin by looking at the challenges that you have managing compliance. Many organizations face these challenges, particularly those managing mobile workforces across multiple sites and systems. Then we'll explore a different approach, treating compliance not as a series of disconnected events, but as an integrated, continuous process. From there, I'll take you into a live demo of Cosmos Forums, where you'll see the full compliance lifecycle in action, from onboarding a new employee through demonstrated competency, insights, and audit-ready reporting. Please feel free to submit questions in the chat as we go. We'll address as many of them as we can at the end. And with that, let's get started. Are we actually compliant? That's the question that keeps HSE leaders up at night. Am I right? Your workforce is mobile. Regulatory requirements keep expanding, and clients don't just want documentation. They want confidence that you're in compliance today and that you're going to stay that way. And your compliance data, it's scattered across spreadsheets, paper forms, and systems. And those systems don't talk to each other. Manual processes are time-consuming, costly, and don't scale. So what's the alternative? The alternative is to change how we approach compliance altogether. Compliance is not a one-time event. It's not a box you check when someone completes a training course or uploads a certificate. It's a continuous cycle. It begins with onboarding. When someone joins your organization, their role determines what compliance requirements apply to them. Next comes certification, training records, credentials, tickets, documentation that confirms they're qualified. But this is where most systems stop. And that's a gap, because holding a certificate doesn't prove someone can perform the work safely in real-world conditions. And that's why assessment is essential. Field evaluations, competency checks, verification that employees can apply what they've learned. And finally, reporting. Real-time insights provide visibility into compliance status across your workforce. Who's current, who's expiring, and where are the gaps? The cycle doesn't end. Certificates expire, policies get updated, employees move into new roles with new requirements. The process is ongoing, and traditional approaches treat these stages as isolated events managed in separate systems. A modern compliance strategy requires them to be connected seamlessly, continuously. And that's exactly what we'll demonstrate today. Introducing Cosmos Forums. Cosmos Forums is a mobile-first, cloud-based enterprise solution built on the Microsoft platform. It's designed for organizations operating in safety-critical, compliance-driven industries. What you're looking at is the full scope of the platform: operational workflows, safety and quality management, equipment and asset tracking, field service management, inspections, document control, performance insights, and more. There are 3 characteristics that sets Cosmos Forms apart. First, it's designed for the front line. Mobile-first architecture, full offline capability. Field teams adopt it because it simplifies their work rather than adding complexity. Second, it's designed for visibility. Data is structured at the point of capture, not compiled after the fact. Reporting is real-time and audit-ready. Third, it's designed to integrate ERP systems, telematics platforms like Samsara, and others. With an API, Cosmos Forms connects to your existing technology stack. It doesn't require you to replace it. Now, there is far more here than what we can cover in a single section. So today, we're going to focus on one critical area: training and compliance management. Within this, you'll see how onboarding, training records, and certifications, job role requirements, competency assessments, and compliance reporting all connect into a single integrated workflow. Now it's time for the demo. But before we dive into that, I want to add some context here. Compliance requirements vary significantly from one organization to the next. What works for a utility company may look very different than what works for a construction firm, for example. For today's demonstration, we've chosen a company that showcases many of our capabilities. This is a Canadian oil field services example. Now, that doesn't mean oil and gas is all that we do. We work with organizations around the world and across a wide range of industries: construction, utilities, manufacturing, many, many more. But oil field services provides us with a very good use case to look at today, because these operations have remote workers spread across multiple branches. They onboard quickly, and their demands are complex and very time sensitive. The principles you'll see today: role-based requirements, automated workflows, real-time compliance tracking applies across all industries. And with that context, let's jump in. I'm going to show you how the onboarding of a new employee works in Cosmos Forms. Here we are in the new employee form. This would be completed by a recruiter or somebody in HR. I've already gone ahead and completed the basic worker details. Our employee is a full-time position. His name is Mark Thompson. He works at the Grand Prairie branch in the tanking services department. We have his email, his phone number, he's in operations, and he reports to Darren Jones. His training group is Grand Prairie Operations. His title is going to be Tank Truck Operator. You can see all I had to do was type in a couple of characters, and it sorted the list as we went. His start date is imminent. These things happen fast. He's starting on Monday. So our onboarding team has a lot to do. The onboarding requirements are an important part of what drives this whole process. The on-site onboarding admin today will be me. Is drug testing required for this employee? Yes, it is. Scheduled test date. He doesn't have much time, so he's going to be tested this afternoon. And the test location is Grand Prairie. Does he need accommodations? Nope. But he's eligible for benefits? Yes, in 90 days. So let's circle back to this drug testing requirement. How many times have you had workers show up on site, they haven't been tested yet, or Maybe they've been tested, but the results aren't in and nobody knew to follow up. Just this field, these two fields right here, mitigate all of that. Now we move on to job role assignments. And this is really impactful, particular to the HSC side of onboarding and compliance. Here we're going to define his job roles. His primary job role is field. His secondary job role tanker. Now, if he was doing work for a customer that had their own specific certification requirements, let's say they had on-site training that needed to be completed, this is where we would define that. But we can move past that for today. I'll show you how all of these job roles factor in a little bit later. Now, this last section, security role and facility role assignments, this pertains to Cosmos Forms access. So if Mark was, say, an executive level or worked in accounting or a particular administrative group, he would have upgraded security access. But because Mark's a field worker, we don't need to bother with this section right now. All of that information is complete. And now we're ready to click Onboard, which is where all the magic happens. Now, in a traditional process, what happens next? Someone sends an email from head office to the branch field office. Maybe it gets read. Maybe there's a couple of days until you have to send another email making sure that it was seen. Then somebody has to manually enter the new hire to a spreadsheet, maybe, or 5 of them. Someone else enters them into payroll. The branch office prints off a stack of 40 pages of paper forms for the new hire to complete, and another stack of printed policies for them to sign. The onboarding admin at one branch may have a checklist they've created for themselves. Meanwhile, the onboard admin at another branch prefers to work off the top of his head. He's been doing it for years. He knows what to do. Hopefully, nothing falls through the cracks. But that single click just replaced all of that. And let me show you how. 4 things just happened automatically. I'll walk you through each one. First, our new hire just received this welcome email. Take a look at what it includes. A welcome message, instructions to download the Cosmos Forms app, links to orientation videos, including a tutorial on how to use Cosmos Forms. And this is the critical part. It includes a prompt to use Cosmos Forms to complete the forms that are required before their first day, including uploading specific safety certificates. They know exactly what is expected of them, and they complete all of these at home on their smartphone before day 1 on the job. Second, those forms were automatically assigned to them in Cosmos Forms the moment I clicked Submit on that new employee form. Third, Mark Thompson now exists as a user in Cosmos Forms. They can download the app and get to work immediately. Fourth, their employee record was sent to the integrated ERP and payroll system. No one in payroll has to re-enter this information. So let me show you what this looks like from Mark's perspective. The first time he logs into the Cosmos Forms app on his phone, you'll see this homepage. The welcome email told him to head to his in-progress forms. So let's start there. Here's a list of everything that's been automatically assigned to Mark as part of the onboarding process. Here he sees a driver profile survey, employee profile, group insurance enrollment request. No hunting through emails, no wondering, what am I supposed to do? It's all right here, clearly listed. So think about that in comparison to your current process. How much time is spent with new hires having them fill in paper forms or teaching them to use multiple tools, scanning, uploading forms to HR, adding certifications, PPE assignments, fuel cards, etc., all to spreadsheets. So let me walk you through a couple of these forms so you can see just how simple this is. Here is the employee profile. This is where Mark enters all of the standard information that you might find in a paper personnel file. Here he would enter his name, his date of birth. If he had a preferred first name, let's say his name is Mark Thompson, but he prefers to go by Charlie, he would enter it there, and then everybody would know to call him Charlie. Here he'd enter all of his contact information, his personal email address, if his mobile number is changed, let's say, address, city, province, or state, and payroll information. This gets sent right into the ERP system. So here he would provide his social insurance number or social security, and he has an opportunity to take a picture of a void check or a form from the bank that gives payroll all the information they need to submit his payroll to him directly into his account. He'd also add a couple of emergency contacts right in here. And then at the bottom, he has an opportunity to sign that to certify that everything he has entered is done correctly. Another one here that I'd like to show you is the policy acknowledgement binder. So when Mark opens this, he sees several policies here. Fit for duty, safe workplace, confidentiality policy, accommodation policy, overtime, and then at the bottom, a space to acknowledge. So let's open the fit for duty policy section. Here there's a hyperlink labeled fit for duty. Let's tap it. So when Mark taps that hyperlink, it automatically opens a PDF of this fit for duty policy that is stored in the Cosmos Forms documents library. He reads through the policy and then acknowledges that he has read and understand and agree. Complete section. Then he just keeps going through all the way for each of these policies until he gets to the bottom, and then he signs and completes that form and submits it. Now, something that I'm not going to show you right now, but I'd love to tell you about is that, so for all of these policies, he's read the current version for today during onboarding. Let's say 6 months down the road, one of these policies gets updated. Mark will receive a notification in his Cosmos Forms app in his phone that links to the new policy, where he'll be required to read through that and acknowledge it. And the HSC manager will be able to see that Mark has or has not read and acknowledged this policy. It's all tracked automatically. You won't have to chase it. Now, the other, perhaps most critical one for today that I want to show you is Mark's training certificate entry. This is a form that enables Mark to add and upload his certificates right from his phone. So let's add one. Let's start with Mark's required to submit TDG, transportation of dangerous goods. So he goes to training topic. You can see there are a lot here. I should mention that all of these are fully customizable to your organization. These are all the ones required at our generic Canadian oil field services company. So here, we're going to search for TDG. And there it is, transportation of dangerous goods. So Mark opens that, has a look at his certificate, and enters the effective date, which in this case is going to be May 1st, 2025. And you'll note the expiry date populates automatically because the system knows that TDG certificates are good for 3 years. And down the road, as that expiry date approaches, Mark will be notified at whatever interval, whatever interval you set. So if you set that interval for, we want to give him 90 days heads up to renew it, he'll get a 90-day notice, and then maybe he'll get another one in 30 days. And then when it's dire emergency imminent, he'll get notified again. So no having to manage that on spreadsheets and chase them down yourself. Excuse me, I need a drink of water. So now Mark needs to actually upload his certificate, and he can do that right from his device. Just like that. Takes a photo, and there it is. Right there. Now back photo. Well, to be completely transparent, this is not a real certificate. And so the back is blank. So that's what we're going to put up today. But, in the real world, this would obviously fail verification. But we'll let it slide today. And there it is. He selects who their certificate was issued by. So you would have in here available to you any of the training companies that you work with. Today, this one was issued by Energy Safety Canada. Certificate number, well, it's going to be X's today. And that's it. He completes that section, closes it, and hits submit. And he gets notification that it was submitted successfully and is being uploaded. Now, that gives me an opportunity to point out that it says it's being uploaded, but let's say Mark was out of service in this moment. It would upload automatically as soon as he's back connected to carrier signal. And I just want to make sure I covered everything that I wanted to cover in that part. So let's go back to the desktop view and check in with our onboard admin. So last time we were in here, we were the onboard, well, no, we were the recruiter. Now we're the onboard admin. And the onboard admin goes to their in-progress forms right here. And here we see this one is new, a payroll deduction authorization form that was generated automatically when we initiated onboard. So let's check that out. This payroll deduction authorization form exists to inform the payroll group what deductions will be required from this employee. Let's say they need a couple of courses that they haven't taken. So let's go with maybe he needs H2S Alive and ground disturbance. And you can see that the total cost is conveyed down here. This company always requires a PPE deposit of $200. So we select yes. We complete that section, complete this section. And we can see here in the workflow for this form has gone from enter by the onboard admin. It will then go to Mark for review and to acknowledge that he understands that these funds will be deducted from his first paycheck. And then once he confirms it, it will go straight to payroll so they can implement those charges. Now let's check in on our new employee form we were looking at earlier. Now you will see the status has changed to onboard. Also, we can see a couple of new sections have been added. We have related forms and orientation checklist. In our related forms, there's a bit of magic. Here we can see the status of all of the forms that were assigned to Mark. And we can see, for example, the driver profile survey. It's an enter status, so he's still working on it, as he is these other forms that haven't been submitted yet. But down here at the bottom, we can see that Mark has submitted a training certificate. It's now in verify status. Let's click on that. Here we see that Mark has uploaded his TDG certificate. I can see the dates, and I have an opportunity to verify that the information that he entered on the corresponding form fields is accurate. Who it was issued by, and their certificate number. Now, this will go through a manual verification process in a step that in a different step. But there's also the capability I want to tell you about, which is that many training organizations now have an automated authentication process. And where those exist, Cosmos Forms is able to synchronize with that and complete this verification process automatically without anybody having to look at it. The other element in this form I want to show you is the orientation checklist. So this is for the on-site onboard admin. And all of these checklist items are created, predefined, based on the employee's job role. So here, Mark is a member of the field staff. But if we click and change it, say to office, you can see the list is quite different, much simpler. If we switch it back to field, we have things here like to double check and make sure that the alcohol test has been completed. Yes. And then prompted to upload the result, which will also be stored for future reference in Cosmos Forms if needed. We arrange a road test. We collect their driver's abstract. Complete site training and orientations, all kinds of things like this. A little bit of Cosmos Forms training as well. Assign their fuel card, prompt activation of that fuel card, order coveralls for them, all of this. So no having to remember or having different checklists at different branch offices that, or things stored in people's heads that maybe don't get passed on to completely to the person who takes over that role someday. It's all right in here. And I want to show you the workflow on this onboarding form as well. So here we can see it was entered by me in the role of recruiter. And then once I completed the top section, this form then went to onboard. Today, also me, but in the real world would be somebody else, the onboard admin. So let's say this part is happening at head office. This is happening in the field at the branch office, all without the need for a single phone call or an email. They get alerted, they have a new employee, they work their way through their checklist. And once this checklist is complete, then all of this goes to payroll. They confirm all the information is accurate the way they need, which it always is, and complete. And that's it for here. So now you have seen how an employee is onboarded, like the forms that are completed on the recruiter and the onboard admin side, how it all works on Mark's phone. And so now I'm going to show you how we track all of this training and compliance across the organization. But before we do that, I actually just want to show you something on Mark's mobile app here. This has to do with training. So if we go, I'm back on Mark's phone. And if we go here to his home screen, you can see now that there is a tab called training. So if we tap on training, you can see that all of Mark's certificates are right here, available for him to reference, to see the status of, which is great for him, but it's also really, really helpful on the job. Let's say he arrives at a customer's job site and they want to verify that his certificates are current. He can just open this form and show them all the details right there. He doesn't need to call head office, dig through a wallet, check the glove compartment of his truck, maybe find old certificates. No need for any of that. It's all right here in his device. Easy to reference. So now I want to show you I've been having so much fun talking to you that I've kind of lost track of my slides, but it's okay. We're getting through all of it. So here I want to show you Cosmos Forms insights, specifically the training insights. This is where you have an opportunity to track compliance across your whole organization. The first thing I want to show you here is job role requirements. So you'll recall that earlier we defined Mark's job role. His primary job role is field staff, and his secondary job role, tanker truck driver. We could see at a single glance, these are all the certifications, orientations, tests, everything that Mark requires in his job to be compliant. It's all listed right there. And now we go to the training compliance matrix. You can see the status of compliance across your entire workforce, all in a single glance. Up here in the summary, we can see that 77% of the workforce is fully compliant, which is great. But we can also see that there are a number of certificates that are set to expire within 90 or 30 days, some that are just outstanding entirely, say perhaps orientations have been missed or haven't been completed yet. Some certifications are, of course, day one required, and some have a little more time, so that could be why some are still outstanding. All of these dots represent their status. So if we, for instance, have a look at any of these here, we can click here and we can see that Colton's fatigue management certificate is current. That's great. But over here, we can see that Cameron's ground disturbance is going to be expiring within 90 days. No digging through spreadsheets. You can just see it all right here. But as we've discussed, certificates are not the full picture of compliance. You need to also make sure that somebody is competent to do the work safely in the field. And this is where assessment comes in. The role that was defined for Mark requires that he have a field evaluation tailored to his role. So let's initiate one of those now. Field evaluation, tanker truck operator. So this will be, I'm going to play the role of a field supervisor. So Mark is having a field evaluation with his tank truck unit 130. He's working at the Grand Prairie branch. Configuration of his tanker truck is a tri-tri. Great. Now, the evaluation. Is Mark completing his bills of lading and timesheets, completed and handed it on time? He exceed expectations. Hazard ID forms, minimum 3 per week, satisfactory. Cosmos forms, satisfactory. And on. His overall driving ability, satisfactory. Now there's an opportunity here, of course, to say needs improvement, and that would initiate an action to this driver to say, you need to work on this part, and we're going to circle back and evaluate again soon to make sure that it has been. But today, he's satisfactory. He has a cheerful disposition, so he exceeds expectation on interpersonal skills. He understands his ERP, communicates well with his cheerful disposition, and he wears his PPE. His tire chains are on, and he can demonstrate the winterization process for his vehicle. And then below, we can see that Mark has scored a 95 on his field evaluation. Good job, Mark, because the 80 is a passing score. We complete, and at the bottom, have an opportunity to add comments. Supervisor, me, signs off. The worker, Mark, also signs. And that's done, and it's submitted. And now we were to go over to training compliance insights, we could find that here. Over here in competency, we can see all of these field evaluations for the workforce. This particular one, this one is for Elijah. Let's have a look at Elijah's. From right here within the matrix, I can highlight Elijah's competency assessment and open the form. And here we can see the results of Elijah's test. He also got a 95. Good job, Elijah. But here we can see, oops, that Earl's is set to expire in 30 days. So even the field assessments have a predefined interval for renewal. So Earl's field supervisor would get a notification saying, you need to revisit Earl in the field and conduct a fresh assessment to ensure that he still knows what he's doing and he's up to date. And I've shown you how all of these competency assessments are trained right here in the matrix. Also, the other benefit of these training insights is that at any time, if you need to issue a report for your executive branch or for a spontaneous audit, even from your client or a regulatory body, all you have to do is go in here and pull a report, just like that. No digging through filing cabinets and stressing out over where all the information is and calling field supervisors and all of that. It's all just right here. And now we have our key takeaways. Process automation. I showed you how completing a simple form initiates automatically a series of forms for the new worker to complete, a form for another team member to complete. It automated taking information and directing it directly into an ERP or payroll. It also automatically populated our insights, saving time and costly and time inefficient manual processes. I also showed you how compliance is tailored specifically to you and your organization. However you define compliance, Cosmos is tailored to fit that and make it more efficient. And I showed you that you have actionable insights. With a quick look at the training matrix, you can see exactly where your workforce stands. And that's how it's done. From workflow forms, informing safety and quality, field services, training and compliance, inspections, documents, equipment, all feeds into actionable insights. Thank you very much for your time today. We would be thrilled to answer any questions you have. And we'd also love to continue the conversation with you. So if you'd like to reach out to either David or I, please feel free to do so. And visit us at cosmosforums.com. And now let's hand it over to questions.
Yeah, Jacqueline, thank you so much for that informative demo. As Jacqueline mentioned, now is the time to get your questions in. We have our experts here to answer those for you. Our first question here is, does the system require the worker to have the app on their personal phone?
Yes, it does. And it is agnostic to operating system too. So it could be an iPhone or an Android. But it could be a personal phone, or if they have a company assigned phone, that as well. David, did you want to add anything on that?
No, that's covered it completely.
All right, our next question, an important one. Can Cosmos Forms work offline in areas with limited internet connectivity? And how does the data sync once reconnected?
Yeah, absolutely.
I could take that one for you if you want, Jacqueline. Yeah, pretty tickled with how we do offline operations. Effectively, Cosmos is always offline. The way it works is that as you're working on your mobile device, you'll be filling in information onto a form, for example, or accessing data on that form on your device. But if you are connected in the background, that information will be automatically sent to the cloud on an interval, typically every 30 seconds. And it also is a bidirectional synchronization. It'll bring data down from the cloud at that same sync. Some events, like taking a picture, because there's so much data involved, we immediately start syncing that data as soon as the picture is taken. And that way, the information, if you have connectivity, flows to the cloud while you're working on the rest of the inspection or the form, so that when you get to the end of the form, most, if not all of that data has already been moved up to the cloud. So it's a very transparent, automated process in the background. If you're not connected, or if you move in and out of connectivity, there's no change to the experience that the end user is having. They continue to fill in their form and do everything that they're intending to do. And if you're out of service, you simply re-enter service and turn the app on, and it will automatically sync in both directions, and nothing is lost. It's a very high performance sync that's completely automatic and transparent, and it avoids the problem that you have with a lot of processes where if you are only starting the sync after you've filled everything in and you hit the submit button, very often the worker is going to throw his phone on his dash and start driving, or put it somewhere where it's not going to have very good connection, or you may be in sketchy connection service to begin with. So we sort of avoid those kind of real life synchronization problems by trying to sync, if we can, automatically throughout the entry of the form. That also gives you one other benefit, is the administrators can see all partially entered forms at any time. So hopefully that answered that question for you.
Perfect. Our next question is, how does Cosmos Forms handle updating forms and processes as regulations or requirements change?
Well, the form processes themselves, those are completely maintainable by individual clients. So you can, modify the forms however you wish at any time. There's no programming involved. You don't need Cosmos to set up the forms or the workflow. You certainly can do all of that, and we encourage you to do that yourself. Anything in the documentation side that is regulatory related, you would want to take those new documents and upload them as a new version. And if you did that, as Jacqueline showed in her demo, if there's a new version to a document that is required for compliance, that would automatically be communicated to everyone that needs to review and stay current with that changed information. So simply change the document, add a new version, and it automatically updates all of the end users.
One thing I'd like to add to that is that updating a form, changing a form to adapt to a new internal policy or regulatory policy, it's very, very simple. So as part of your onboarding process with us, we help you get set up in the first place, but then we teach you also how to manage this on your own. It can be done in a matter of minutes. It's a very simple process to change. It's very intuitive.
Yeah, and maybe I'll add to that, Jacqueline. One of the things that's kind of unique about how we do things is that there may be many forms that are already in process with the old definition. They're completely unaffected by the changes that you might make on a new version. So there's no opportunity for the system to break. If you started a process on version 3 of a form and someone makes a change to it to version 4, only the new forms that are entered as version 4 will reflect those new changes. And the earlier versions, the workers will be able to complete those without any risk that the logic changed and there'll be a negative impact.
Perfect. And our last question, would you give your insight on what you believe success looks like for an organization after implementing Cosmos forms?
Hmm.
Oh, that's a really interesting one. What does success look like? Well, success, I'll try a few ways to sort of measure that. One is you've moved away from paper or legacy systems, if that was your situation, and now you've automated processes. Processes are now more defined and can operate consistently across your organization. So that's very important. Success is that you're now capturing data and you're measuring it and you're tracking it. We highlighted today tracking information about training, and we did that by showing you some forms that we entered and worked through. All of those forms are being captured. All of that form data is available for analysis and trending. And so we're really building a very large database. We have clients with hundreds of thousands of forms entered in a year. And that all becomes data that can be mined. It's actually data that's laying the groundwork for what's coming next, which is AI. And you're not going to be able to do a good job of AI without good quality structured data. And Cosmos is laying that groundwork for you to capture that. I think really at the end of the day, success is an organization following their procedures in a consistent and reliable and repeatable manner. So I think I'll stop there. But
I'll add something. I
okay.
think just to kind of build on that, the other aspect of the outcome is that it's totally scalable. So if you, as your organization grows, as somebody else raised a question about regulatory changes, procedural changes, Cosmos Forms grows with you. You can have a workforce of thousands. You can have a workforce of 20. It grows and evolves with you. So success
Mhm.
on that, like when you're looking at it that way, success looks like an ease of transition and scale without having to constantly reinvent the wheel of processes and integrate several different siloed systems to try and reach the next level. Instead, think of Cosmos as just kind of like a really smooth slope that goes with you and without any having to have continuous shocks to your system.
Oh, excellent, Jacqueline. Thank you for that. In kind of, I guess another sort of thing that I see what happens with clients in the initial days, you focus on what your priority is. It could be safety, it could be quality. Over time, because of the consistent interface, in the workflow nature of the forms, it starts now to expand into other areas where it's a front end to some of the ERP processes. It's a front end to some of the HR processes,
Mm.
time off requests, and so on. And you may start with, say, safety as a starting point, but there's also in the box already a full featured field service solution, really rich inspections, really rich document management, and so on. So what we normally see is a company will start somewhere and then start evolving into those other areas. And really, what does success look like when you sort of are mapping all of your business processes that make sense into a more digital manner?
Fantastic. Well, Jacqueline and David, thank you so much for your time today. It was a wonderful presentation and we really enjoyed seeing Jacqueline navigate the app. And again, as she mentioned, how seamless and how much it is scalable and grows with you. So David and Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here today. And of course, we want to thank Cosmo Forums for allowing both of you to be here today. And I want to thank everybody in the audience and all of our dedicated safety professionals, because without them, none of this would be possible. So thanks again. Take care and stay safe. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.